The Northern Consensus Movement of Nigeria has issued a 4-week ultimatum to to Nigeria's federal government, that is, over its failure to compensate the families of Northerners killed in various insecurity crises in the country's south. The group says it will impose a food blockade on the south and stop foodstuffs from moving to the southern part of the country from Nigeria's north if Nigeria's government continually refuses to honor its promises made to families of the victims. It also warned the federal government to compel the Pan Yoruba nationalist Sunday Igboho to recall his threat, mandating all Nigerians from Fulani extraction to vacate the southern part of the country within 10 days, saying the same measure will be applied to Yorubas living in the northern part of Nigeria. Well, to discuss this, we're joined by Kenneth Ikenwa, who's a business, political, and social policy analyst. Very good, big pleasure to have you, Kenneth. Thank you very much for your time. What do you make of this threat by the Northern Consensus Movement of Nigeria?
All right. Good evening, Kofi. Thanks for having me on. Well, to my people, Nigerian people in the north, I say Sonny de Zua. To those in the west, I say Korole. To those in the east, I say Dalunu. And to those in the south, permit me to say Migwo. Why am I doing that? We have a country of ethnic diversity and where people, that are united. According to the Constitution, the people united under God and under law. I think that these are not interesting times for Nigeria because I never thought I would grow up in a country where we'll be having this degree of ethnic bigotry and chauvinism across the length and breadth of the country. But the truth must be told. It brings to bear the commitment that governments in different dispensations actually make to the different subnationals of Nigeria and the extent to which we recklessly make some of these commitments and do not, fulfill the end of the bargain. So whilst we look at the supply end and, would want to term it as ethnic chauvinism, we also need to look at what is coming from the government and most importantly, what this administration can do to douse this ethnic chauvinism that, raises its voice and raises its ugly head across the length and breadth of the country. So it is not an interesting thing to be talking about. It's very sensitive, but I think that it creates an opportunity for the government to bring the peoples of the country of Nigeria together and to bring us under that flag of unity. And I think there is an opportunity here, and I think the government should set the ground running, like the president said on the first day, and bring all of this smoke and all of these challenges that we're having completely obliterated. It's not a good time for this country.
Interesting, Kenneth. How do you think that this threat will, in reality, affect the food distribution chain in Nigeria? How much of a ripple effect will this have, on other businesses in the country if such a threat sees the light of day?
All right. Definitely, a threat like this, if actually carried out, would affect the supply and value chain of most businesses, especially in the food and agricultural sector. And this would have about two terrible implications, which would mean that a lot of waste, of this farm produce would be recorded in the other part of the country. Because we had this kind of problem, I think, during when we had the cash flow and the ease or the lack of ease of movement in the country just before the election. And this same group said that they lost about 18 billion naira worth of goods. Are we going to lose that much again? Now, for the supply chain effects and for the value chain effects, it is going to create some disturbance. And technically, in business, we refer to this disturbance as supply chain inefficiencies or supply chain costs. Now, the problem with that cost is that it's going to transfer the cost to the end consumers, especially in the part of the country, and other sections of the country will also be affected. And it comes in the name of what you and I know is actually inflation. But the term inflation is not what really bothers me. What really bothers me is that we will start having what is known as shrink inflation and skimp inflation. Shrink inflation in the sense that people will have to start paying more for less, and then the quality of the kind of food that we'll start having to eat would definitely reduce, and we're paying more for that. So it is not the supply chain effects are definitely negative. So too will be the value chain effect. And the earlier we can stem this threat in its tide and bring it to an end, and ensure that we begin to see ourselves as one people and not begin to use food as a weapon. Food as a weapon, of threatening other members of the Nigerian Federation, the better for the Nigerian people. So these are going to be the side effects. There will be food inflation. There will be supply chain disturbances. It will result in inefficiencies, and there will be a high degree of skimp inflation and shrink inflation across the different parts of the country where they will be expecting the supply end, of these products to be coming from.
Well, Kenneth, I'm sure you agree this is not the first time such a threat has been made by groups from Nigeria's north, but some people see this as some sort of move to seek the attention of the public, also of government. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think there's an attention-seeking action?
Well, when we take a look at the national anthem, one of the stanzas says, "O God of creation, director our noble cause, guide our leaders right." When we talk about leadership, we should also be talking about management. And if there's anything that can be done, to bring to the attention of the government the needs, all right, of certain groups of people in the country, well, we would say that it is in order. But the least that should be done is to use food to actually threaten people on the other side of the country. So bringing to the attention of the government the needs, all right, of a particular group or a particular section of the country is not a bad idea in its entirety. But carrying out the threat of, making people go hungry or starve is not in the interest of the human rights or collective human rights of the entire members of the Federation of Nigeria. Now, what actually is happening? What we are seeing is the need for us to have an economic restructuring. And for all the fed units of the country to start thinking and start thinking of how we can integrate even as a country, look at our business value and supply chains and begin to see how we can integrate backward. Then government must meet up with commitments that it to meet up with that commitment. But such commitments should not be such commitments or such demands should not be on the ground of ethnic chauvinism or to be on the ground of threatening any other member of the federated unit of the country with hunger or with starvation or with the basic need of life, which is denial of the supply of food from one end of the country to the other end. That way, we can, keep our country united and have the focus of building Nigeria and exporting the Nigerianness of our country to other parts of Africa. Okay,
very, very quickly, just a brief one because we're out of time, Kenneth. What are your thoughts on Igboho's ultimatum to Fulanis to relocate to the north? Because that's what another thing they're responding to. They've promised to do a return match, respond, they return the favor. So what do you think about that?
Well, it's very laughable. Uncle Sunday Igboho is my kinsman from my mother's side. I'm actually from Delta, so I am a dual tribal Nigerian citizen, and I will be the least citizen to actually advocate any form of ethnic chauvinism, or bigotry. But jokes apart, and truth be said, the country belongs to all of us, right? Even though we have seen some instances of where we have injustice here and there, that doesn't now mean that we should start looking for opportunities, to hit at one another on the basis of ethnicity. I must say this, those that are causing division in this country today are those who have not actually read the history of this country, and are those who were not even born when this country was amalgamated, when this country became one or fought for independence in 1960. Now, we cannot afford to allow those who did not know how we struggled, how we fought, how we went through a bloody civil war, to come and start beating the drums of war. And when these drums of war start beating, they will not be there dancing. They will be outside the country dancing and having, a lot of drinks and clicking their glasses of champagne. I think it is a wrong call. I think any call from any individual that is a Nigerian should be how we can sit down and have a dialogue or have a trialogue and how we can forge our unity in diversity and get the best of our diversity as an advantage, for building our economy and other aspects of our federation. Okay. Now, countries like the United States, Singapore, Malaysia, even China, these are countries that are highly ethnically diverse, and we can see the best that has come out of this country.
All right.
Strategic positions and advantages they have across the world. So we can do it, and it is very possible.
But quite interesting examples you've given there of countries like Singapore with different races, but they all live in harmony. Thank you very much, Kenneth Ikenwa, business, political, and social policy analyst. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks, Kofi, for having me on.